This is the AOC AG251FG. It's a 24.5 inch 1080p 1 millisecond 240Hz gaming monitor sporting NVIDIA's G-Sync technology all the way up to 240Hz, with the option of otherwise running NVIDIA's ultra-low motion blur tech at 144, which is their blur reduction. The screen comes as standard with a 3-year warranty, a sign of good faith in their products from AOC. Now in the box you get the monitor itself, stand and base, in addition to a power brick with both a European and UK power cable, a DisplayPort 1.2 cable for 240Hz, a HDMI 1.4 cable for consoles etc, a USB 3.0 pass-through cable, and a 100x100 VESA mounting bracket. Now unlike other displays, you'll need to screw the 100x100 VESA compliant stand into the back of the monitor rather than just clip it in. I do like this design though, as it essentially means if you do decide to mount it elsewhere, you can sell on the stand and base and recoup some costs, and that base essentially then screws on through a non-detachable thumb screw. Now the stand offers full ergonomic adjustment and productivity options with 130mm of height adjustment, 20 degrees of swivel, plus the usual pivot and tilt. There are also notches for both the height and tilt, but honestly they're little more than gimmicky extras. Its stand might look fancy too, but it is still practical. Its base hugs the desk, so keyboards with raised feet will hover over the top when placed at an angle, which is great of course if space or playstyle is an issue, and something that can't be said about other certain 240Hz G-Sync displays available, at least within Europe. Now in terms of its aesthetics, the AG251FG has a light matte panel coating that helps prevent glare without its haze being obvious on lighter shades such as white. Bezels are relatively thin, and I'm certainly a fan of its angular design without the overuse of curves. Its red, black and silver finish certainly looks sleek and professional to my eyes, and the only thing really missing is the ability to disable the power LED via the OSD, which is a minor annoyance, but it still isn't distracting and isn't over bright. Now under the monitor you'll find the inputs. On one side you've got the power in port for the external brick, a USB 3.0 pass-through, and 2 USB 3.0 ports. On the other there's a single DisplayPort and HDMI port, plus microphone pass-through for an input on the side. There you'll also find an audio jack to complement a gaming headset, including headphone hanger, and let's not forget there are built-in speakers 2 watt that are up firing. They're good enough, but you will want a headset. But finally, there are another 2 USB 3.0 ports, one of which is for mobile charging that can be activated via the on-screen display. So moving into the main features available for competitive players in the OSD. Firstly, under Luminance there are a bunch of game mode presets, including FPS, RTS, Racing, Gamer and Off. These settings simply modify everything that can otherwise be found in the OSD to some predetermined values by AOC. You can customize all of these on the fly, but the only ones that will actually save their settings on swapping away are the Off and Gamer presets. It'd be nice if we could rename those two in that respect, but hey, better this than nothing. But in terms of main features, we're given the ability to tweak the 1 millisecond TN panel and its overdrive to help reduce ghosting. There are 5 settings including off, weak, light, medium and strong. Medium is certainly the value you want to use, as you can see here on Test UFO, and is definitely one of the better implementations on a 240Hz display, matching my recent impressions of the XL2740. Game color also allows a setting of between 0 and 200, an absolute ginormous range in increments of 1, and acts as an alternative to NVIDIA's digital vibrance. In that respect, 0 is grayscale and 200 is extremely oversaturated, with 100 being the default value. This can be a great feature though to help enemies pop out from the environment, or simply make things a little more lively. Finally, shadow control with its 4 steps, 0 being off, and then 1 to 3 allow you to lighten up those darker areas without heavily affecting other areas of the image. Recently, Valve have been very good with lighting designs in their map for competitive play though, but if you do play games with darker scenes and want to gain a slight competitive edge, then using this in combination with game color is certainly a good way to go and definitely worth taking advantage of. We're also given full control over both the contrast and brightness, plus 3 gamma settings to complement everything under the color setup tab. There we'll also find options to customize color temperature with 4 presets: normal, warm, cool and sRGB, and there's also a user option with full RGB in increments of 1 between 0 and 100, and you can also tweak the low blue light setting for those late night sessions, increments of 1 again, 0 to 20. OSD setup will allow you to tweak the language, timeout, position, transparency, and set a break reminder, and then finally under the extra tab we can enable ULMB when the display is set to 144Hz in the control panel. This flickers the backlight to remove ghosting at the cost of a slight reduction in brightness, and is obviously nice to have, but in all honesty, if blur reduction is what you're seeking, then one that works up to 240Hz is the way to go, and something I hope NVIDIA address in the next G-Sync module, but this is also quickly accessible by hitting the right button on the menu. And although it would be nice to assign various picture modes to these buttons on the front of the display, or change the left and right buttons from volume and ULMB to game color and shadow control respectively, because those are two values I like to experiment from map to map and game to game, but in all I'm otherwise satisfied with the control on offer here from AOC on the AG251FG. It's a great package and there's really nothing else you could possibly want. Maybe an FPS counter in the upper left for G-Sync and potentially on-screen crosshairs, but I couldn't say I'd ever take advantage of the latter. So gaming on the AOC AG251FG has been honestly nothing short of fantastic. Now you're probably wondering if I favour this to my day-to-day ViewSonic XG2703GS, which is a 1440p 165 IPS panel like AOC's AG271QG. And to that I answer, they're simply different. Now I have to mention we're looking at this monitor from the viewpoint of a competitive player, and for a full comprehensive breakdown of how to calibrate this display, definitely check out the full review from PC Monitors that I've linked in the video description. But if money's no issue, or if you compete in a game where holding 240 frames is seemingly easy, you'll definitely want 240Hz every day of the week. That I guarantee. At a steady frame rate of 240, the reduction in ghosting is certainly apparent even when compared to traditional 144Hz TN panels. But those games are ultimately few and far between, particularly in recent times with everything being in early access. So whilst 240Hz is perfect for the likes of Counter-Strike, Overwatch and potentially Quake Champions on a 1080 Ti, others such as PUBG, Battlefield 1, Rainbow Six Siege and even Quake Champions on my 1070 Ti, then I could certainly create an argument that would suggest it's a waste of money. Or could I? Because if we add NVIDIA G-Sync to the mix, we're now able to lock the frame rate in games where we achieve over 240 frames to 238 instead of something much lower like 160 on 165 or 140 on 144. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail, so do check out the Blurbusters article linked in the video description, but the difference in input lag between 238 and 300 is mostly negligible at that point, and for the games where we drop below 238, well, G-Sync will certainly cushion some of that heartbreak and continue to provide an incredibly smooth image that's completely free of tearing from start to finish. This all culminates into one of the most impressive 240Hz displays I've had the pleasure of gaming on. Input lag is incredibly low and the G-Sync module is certainly doing its job in keeping things snappy, tracking enemy model directional changes with absolutely no problem, and competing on this display would be an absolute joy to do. Now I'm sure Alienware's AW251FH and Acer's PG258Q would be equally impressive in that respect, as they're arguably similar with G-Sync modules, but honestly I hate their included stand designs as they can be incredibly troublesome on certain setups. Most tournaments in fact have taken those stands off the monitors and replaced them with traditional ones from Dell, to put it into perspective, so that all adds to initial costs. Both this and the US only XG2560 have stuck to relative basics and make for suitable competitive gaming displays out of the box, as does Zowie with their monitors also. To me though, G-Sync 240Hz is potentially endgame, but admittedly it's not quite there yet. There is a very minor amount of pixel inversion artifacts which are extremely faint vertical lines that will appear at seemingly random times during gameplay, mostly when G-Sync is enabled, and the only other improvements I'd like to see in future would be a switch to IPS technology and 1440p for increased desktop productivity, better colours and viewing angles for day-to-day editing like this video. That said, there's definitely something nice about watching native 1080p content on this display rather than upscaling it to 1440p, and that's something I don't think a lot of people really consider when purchasing. And although I could certainly see myself using this monitor moving forward as my primary gaming display, but I'd be happy enough with my usual 1440p IPS 165Hz display for the majority of content too. I also love the XL2740 that I reviewed recently, and I'd honestly struggle to pick my favourite between the two as far as 240Hz goes, or the three with the 165 IPS outside of maybe Overwatch. So let's take 1440p out of the equation and pretend you don't want it. At 24.5 inch I can't not recommend this display. And at 27 inch I can't not recommend the XL2740. If you want 1440p but you aren't sure yourself, then welcome to my hell, because that's where I am right now. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe for more review content in future, and if you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Don't forget, I do stream on Twitch every day from around 6 PM, so do make sure to stop by and get involved in the live discussion. But for now, take care, keep gaming, and I'll catch you next time.